Sharks, what's good? So, today we're talking about NFL all day, which I should have probably done this before I started recording, but let's look at some of these things. Yeah, I mean, ooh, Zach Wilson 20? Zach Wilson 20? What do you Oh, I see now. I see now. Oh, we got problems. Okay. So let's talk. Let's talk about why we're having problems. Now, as you can see, I don't have anything going on. I haven't been doing this. Have I been logging in? No, not this weekend. I didn't even know why there's only three. Did they change that for this week? I haven't been logging in. All right. I didn't burn 5 moments. I got 2 yards, nothing. Why? Because we got to talk about playbook. And then you'll understand why I don't do this anymore. Now I had a collection. My collection was probably at least worth maybe up to $700. You know, at one point I did a rare challenge before playbook, but I haven't really done one since. So we're going to talk about what this is, and obviously I got to show you the screen in order to be able to make my point here. But we're going to talk about why this is, why I personally left, why I could come back, and what's good and bad about this whole thing here. Because, when it first came out, everyone was like, oh, this is amazing. And when I first looked at it, I didn't totally understand exactly how it was going to go. So I was, both skeptical and curious, and then after week one, I'll say it now, I ditched it pretty much altogether. I haven't been accumulating yards since. I made out pretty all right on these. I think I got up to 2 stars the first time, but since then, not so much, as you can see. So what is playbook, right? So playbook is the system. I mean, for anyone who really isn't familiar with the system, playbook is the system where you accumulate yards, and the number of yards you accumulate corresponds to a pack that you could get, or these little, I guess, these free rewards, sort of like graphic design things. I guess they're NFTs. I guess they're on chain, but these little perks that you get, these little, I guess they're accolades. Is that what they're called? You get these little things, and if you want actual moments that you can trade, because these are soulbound, if you want actual moments that you can trade, you have to unlock the premium rewards. Now, how do you unlock the premium rewards? Well, what is this, week 4 or week? I'm not a football fan. I don't know it from that vantage point, right? I only know it from an NFT Top Shot vantage point. This is Top Shot Shark. I'm a Top Shot channel, right? But the task, I believe, every week has been burn 5 moments. Now, this week's unlock task, it's as if they were going to make another task. Like in week 1, it was like, oh, this week's task is burn 5 moments. What's next week's task? Burn 5 moments. What about the one after that? Burn 5 moments. What about okay, you're going to have we don't know if they're going to have a different task, right? But this makes things interesting. Now, some of you said to me, oh, you can just burn 5 moments after you decide on how many yards you're going to get. Well, there's problems with that approach. So, as I said, you get a certain number of yards, you can get packs, and you can, in order to get the yards, you have to complete certain tasks, as you'll see. I haven't completed any plays this week. That's true. Sunday night pregame pick. You'll be presented with moments from each of the 2 teams and asked to choose a moment for the team that will win. No need to own the moment. Get it right and you'll earn 5 yards. Okay. So that is, that's a DFS thing. That's something where you have to pick correctly in order to get the 5 yards to go to your total, of course. You have to pick correctly to get the 5 yards. It is up to you to an extent, and then to the rest of it is up to the Bengals and the Ravens, whoever I guess plays the best. From the team that will win. Oh, you get so it's just the game. I thought for a second it was the players, but it's the game. So this is up to Bengals and Ravens, right? I want to see if they've got the thing. There was certain weeks there was favorite team win bonus. So if you're it says my favorite team is the Bills, right? My favorite team is not the Bills, FYI. But I decided at a certain point that because I don't actually have a favorite NFL team, what difference does it make? So I decided I wanted to get the 5 yards. It was something where your favorite team wins, you get 5 yards, right? That's not up to you at all. You know, surely NFL All Day does not want people changing teams so that they get the bonus. But if your favorite team is terrible this year, that just decreases the chances that you can get rewards. So getting yards tied to whether your team is good or not is bad because it just incentivizes people to change their favorite team for reasons that are other than fandom. That sucks. So I'm glad that they don't have that this week. But this this is a pick 'em, I mean, the Ravens are good. I don't know. The Bengals, Burrow is Burrow is up, right? Burrow is not hurt, I hope. So I don't know who won this game, or yeah, it's Monday now. So I don't know who won the game, but um, this is either team could theoretically win in theory. So that's kind of up to you and kind of not. So there's a bunch of these, and there was a Sunday slate challenge. Do I know what the requirements were? Josh Allen, Gabriel Davis, Geno Smith is I know who he is. He's still in the league. I guess so. DK, Eagler, Wentz. Okay. Brees Hall, Zach Wilson, Ryan Tannehill, Alvin Kamara, Dalton, Taysom. Wow, this is a lot of 17 requirements? 17. Okay, 17 requirements. How many yards did you get from this? 25. Okay, so that gets you to 30, almost 30 all by itself if you logged in at least twice, I guess, over for the days of the game. Oh, I see. So it used to be every day, but now it's on game day, apparently. That's less cool. There's some cool things about this, and then there are some less cool things about this. Like, for example, I noticed that this pack is not gated to premium rewards. That's good because for week one, at least, all the packs were gated by burning 5 moments. Now, so let's talk about what these packs are. Okay, wait a minute. Wait. Sorry, excuse me. 80. Can I not scroll here? I can't scroll. Okay, this 4-star playbook reward pack contains 3 moments, 2 X common, 1 X common SE, or rare. Delivery by the end of the day, Friday 14th. Okay, this is a blended pack. It doesn't cost you don't have to give Dapper dollars for this, but this is a blended pack. So how do you get to the blended pack? Well, you have to get to the blended pack by going through the other blended packs, right? You have to get 1, 2, 3, and 4. So this is another blended pack. You get a rare, but I'm guessing this one has a worse chance at a rare than this one. The rares, by the way, are on average higher than even Series 3 Top Shot. So, that only makes them more volatile. And it just means that for every dollar someone can list their moment for, someone else can undercut them by $1. The more supply, the more people there are to undercut you, the more someone else can bring the price down. Assuming that there's no challenge that day and that moment won't necessarily be affected by the challenge. That's a scenario where people are able to uppercut each other, or overcut each other. But this is, most days you get undercutting because people want to be liquid and there isn't necessarily demand for each edition, which is why you have to look at the overall comps, which is why you look at not financial advice, because we don't do that around here, but you have to look at all the other factors that there are, the roadmap, whether something else is going to be released, whether it's part of a checklist or a bottleneck, whether it's, for Top Shot, how many are locked and burned and in the locker room. All Day, to my knowledge, doesn't have a locker room, right? So that's just one less lever that All Day can pull, right? Like someone, a Top Shot influencer I don't really care for all that much, talked about infrastructure. And I was like, dude, in my head, I was like, All Day doesn't have, they don't have locking. They don't have the locker room. They don't have checklists or things. They don't have, to my knowledge, they don't have airdrop. Well, there are airdrops, but not based on sets yet, right? Are there set communities? There are not these things to sort of, keep people from selling. There aren't team captains where they give, Dapper gives them a budget to go buy to go buy moments from their team. So that helps bolster those teams' moments. So depending on the size and fervor of the community. So infrastructure is not a strength here. All you have really is burning. And honestly, we'll get into this in a second. So this is a blended pack. 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 This is just commons. This is one common. This is not really a blended pack. This is just one moment. I guess it's blended in terms of like what you could get out of it, but it's a common, right? So in order to get to this blended pack, you have to get to this blended pack. In order to get to this blended pack, you have to get to this blended pack. And in order to get to this blended pack, you have to get to this blended pack and this one. So what does that mean? It means that you're buying challenges. You have to buy, essentially, you are not, some of these tasks are free, like just logging into the site. But some of these you have to buy. You have to buy the challenge. You don't have to pay Dapper, you have to pay other collectors who might not want to. So it limits scarcity of challenge completions, but you have to buy this challenge. So it's a blended pack inside of a blended pack inside of a blended pack inside of a blended pack. Did Top Shot ever have this? No. They had multiple blended packs, but what were we doing back in February 2022? We were increasing our odds by trying to buy the minimum number of blended packs that we would need to get the reward we wanted. And it would tell you what the odds of those were. They weren't tied to challenges. You would just pay Dapper for them, which I thought was, I think it's simpler than this. So you know what your odds are. So just to be like, you know, just to look at it from those, okay, great. I'm not trying to make a comparison. I'm not trying to make a comparison. That is not what I'm doing. But I do want to just sort of frame this. So for this guy, for example, you know what your odds are. 90% chance at a common LE, 8% chance at a rare, including a Kevin Durant MGLE and other things, and a 1.5% chance at a legendary. Do we know that that's what All Day has? I don't know that. Does it say? Maybe it says somewhere in the Discord and things. I don't have that information off the top of my head, right? But I got 2 moments. I know it's embarrassing. I got it. I got out. I got out. What can I say? But at least for this buying, it doesn't say here. It does say it on the Top Shot homepage, and that I think that would be a clearer way to do this. That's all. But it doesn't. Is that a bug? Goodness gracious! I will take care of that in a second. Just get out of my screen, please. Just go for it now. Okay. It doesn't say what the odds are here. That would be nice. But to think that you're not buying these packs, you are. You're just not paying Dapper for it, right? And that is, I suppose, tricky on their part. But so what are the odds that you get a legendary? Well, the odds that you get a legendary from the pack itself are what they are. I'm sure Dapper can prescribe that. The odds that you were able to complete the challenges in order to get the yards in order to get the pack, well, that depends on who goes off that night. So a lot of this is just based on the game, who plays well in the game. So what if Austin Ekeler gets hurt in the second quarter? Well, then, what was it? Pardon me. Oh wow, that's actually kind of cool. You've burned almost as many moments as Top Shot. Congratulations, but y'all have caught up. Or we have caught up to you. I guess that's wonderful. But yeah, then he doesn't become the requirement here. If he doesn't become the requirement, people aren't going to pay premium for it. And that's interesting. It's not necessarily great. So you're buying these challenges. So how many challenges were there this thus far? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You could buy those challenges, or you can pick. You can get lucky and make the pick. Assuming nothing crazy happens. Because crazy things do happen in the NFL, like a bad team will beat the Patriots. Back when the Patriots were like, the odds of each team winning do not reflect necessarily the result. But you buy these challenges. And then so each of these are not only tied to the challenge, but they're tied to each other. So you have to get this one in order to get that one. And the value from this one could help you get next week's 5-star reward. But it doesn't necessarily. But if this isn't good, or it was tied to cost inflation from the challenges, So is that why Zach Wilson did debut was down to $20? Because that's worse than Top Shot. We don't want to see that, do we? And wasn't he? Didn't we just see that he was a requirement for the Sunday challenge? So why is he $22? Because the challenge is over already? I guess it is. I guess the challenge is over already, but even still, why would you sell below what? I get that it's a high mint for a Top Shot debut at least, but why would this be worse? What gives? I mean, you don't want so NBL, wherever you are, I don't care if I don't need you to be hearing this or anything like that, but NBL keeps making this point about gamification versus collectibles. What good is the collectible if the gamification is getting in the way? And what good is the gamification if the collectible is strong already? So you can't really have it both ways all that much. That's why it's interesting, because historical moments on Top Shot are collectibles primarily, and active player moments on Top Shot are gamified primarily. So you have two different lanes with two different purposes. One with that extra legend tier status, the other with a bunch of flash challenges to help support it. But it's like, there are actually two different ways to play that game. If you want just collectibles, you can get a Tim Duncan legendary or a Jeff Hornacek legendary, or because the checklists and bottlenecks will help bolster that going up. So are these free? No, they're not free. This is not free. I see a bunch of people who go for 100 yards, and I'm like, man, I get that you can get access to a legendary every week, but what do you have to pay in inflation? Because every time, if you see, this is the thing we experienced on Top Shot so readily. I mean, 5 different challenges in a week is good. It's not terrible. It creates enough variety so people aren't all going for the same things to get rewarded. But on Top Shot, we would have one bottleneck on a night. Jared Vanderbilt TSD might go to $325, which it did. It's Jared Vanderbilt. He's not a significant NBA player, but that's what happened when everyone was trying to get rewarded, and we started to surmise that the cost of the challenge would be related. The higher the cost of the challenge, the more expensive the reward would be, or the more scarce it would be. The more costly the challenge, the more. And so, but you'd have a lot of buried dollars. You'd have a lot of buried liquidity under that Jared Vanderbilt that goes to 325 and then comes down to 40. So you can't necessarily do that every week. And you know what happened on Top Shot? We did that every week. Not to that extreme, but to some extreme on one of the bottlenecks of challengers or people. We did that. We buried a lot of dollars around things that people either weren't willing to sell or sold for losses. And so they became these sort of value extractor magnets, sort of vacuums, where some people who were just like going to spec on the challenge and absolutely did not care about the reward, just wanted to take the money, could have just sat on it or stacked a bunch of X, Y, or Z, waited for the pump, and then just vacuumed a lot of dollars out, and then they could have just withdrawn. And that is bad for the market. And then on the other side of it, on the demand side, if you do something like that and you bet on the reward, well then, you can't reasonably sell for, greater than 50% losses the next day without feeling like you didn't get necessarily great value out of it. A lot of times we broke even on that, and a lot of the times worse, so doing that there are ways around it, I think, but doing that on a regular basis hurt Top Shot. There's no question about it. Just because a lot of liquidity that could have been used to buy other people's moments was buried behind things like that, and they happen way too often, and that's why flash challenges needed to be revamped, and that's why they might be revamped, if I'm right, if some of the things that they've said about flash challenges hold, but I'm getting ahead of myself, of course, and I'm getting onto a little too much Top Shot. It's not really a Top Shot video. It's just from the perspective of a Top Shot person. So what was I going to say? Oh yeah, right. So I was going a little 100 miles an hour there. Forgive me. Yeah, that's why the packs are tricky. So if what's his face, Dallas Goedert goes up to 170, then a lot of people in attempting. So it really depends on how many people need every challenge. And so it's not going to be everyone, but if if people are maxing out on this, these have to be gated a little bit harder so that everyone does not find this too easy to do. But even if they did, they'd be banking on the rewards to offset the cost of the challenges, and that can't necessarily happen. Because you have rares that are up to 1,200, case in point, and B, because not everyone gets a legendary. So you have these sort of diminishing returns focused on sort of the electrification of centralized rewards that, unlike Top Shot, do not have clear odds, do not have separate odds. These odds are tied to these odds, and these odds are tied to these odds, and next week's odds, and last week's odds, because if you got better rewards last week, you can afford the better rewards this week. And you have to execute that chain last week in order to put yourself in a position for this week. And you have to execute the 4-star pack to get the 3-star pack. And you have to execute the 3-star pack to get, wait, is this 5? No, this is 4. What the hell? Wait, 1, 2, 3. Wait a minute. This is 1. This is 2. This is also 2? Oh, I didn't get that part. There's 2 2s? I don't know if I saw that the first time around. But yeah. So all these things are tied to each other, and you can't be prepared for every single one of these things. And the more people who are, it hurts. It just hurts the ability for people to sell the rewards. It just forces too many people into these challenges that are then tied to each other, that are then too unpredictable when the supply is not enough for people to have the variety, so that there isn't too much gamification pressure on any one edition, and people get hurt. And that's why you see Zach Wilson TS ADD at $22, because you don't have that decentralization around the editions, so that there isn't as much saturation going up and then saturation coming all the way back down. That volatility is what gets people to both extract money from the system and not put money back into it, and not speculate on value around the system, because they no longer have the liquidity that they had. And now you're just trying to break even, and now it's diminishing. And now now people are trying to run from the reward faster. And then we saw this on Top Shot. We did this. We can't do this every week. It just gets worse, and then people leave, and people say, I'm not doing this. And then that's when the supply looks too crazy. That's when 10,000 is like, well, now it needs to be 9,000. Now it needs to be 7,000. Now, it needs to be 499 rares. It needs to be 399 rares. And look, what are you talking about? What are you doing right now? Like, supply is only relative to the demand that it produces. If the supply produces demand, then the demand is baked in. If the supply does not produce demand, then the demand is not baked in. You have to have something that's desirable, but the number itself doesn't really matter. It only matters relative to A, the users, and B, the quality of the player. Those are the two main factors. So this stuff is cool, but we want to be able to do this, but 1,700, 1,200, it matters only insofar as, what was I going to say? It matters only insofar as there's, there's returns for people to then go around and be able to put back into the system if they want. If you want to take value out of the system because you need to withdraw, you need to withdraw. I'm not begrudging any of that. People have the right to take returns. But then there's, on top of, so people take money out into the system. The question is, how can Top Shot All Day put money back? Can they get you to put money back into the system faster than you take it out? And that's where growth is, and if you got new people coming in, they can grow it because they can put money in a lot faster than you can take it out. And some of the older people, they get to take it out faster. And that was working in the beginning. But if that's exactly what you wanted to do, if that's the primary thing you wanted to do, you do what you want to do, right? And we don't begrudge anyone for doing what they want to do. But, if you're putting money in, if you're getting people to put money in faster than they're taking it out, then that's good. And if you're not, then that's bad. So that's why there's a finite pie at any given time. I'll talk about this. This is a whole thing. There's a finite pie at any given time. And the more people sort of put yeast into the pie, the more that pie rises. And the more people take slices away from the pie, it's still the same pie, but it just thinner and thinner and thinner and thinner. That's why you have to get the widest. If you get the widest possible slices, um, then you're insulating yourself from a lot of that volatility. You're just giving yourself the chance at the tallest slices that rise the most. So that's a whole thing. But because it's a finite pie, there's on Top Shot there's 37 million slices. So the question is, which ones are you going to control? And that's a whole thing. Like I said, I'm going to get into that. But yeah, people have to be able to take money out if they want, but the more you do stuff like this, the more it hurts. Now the burn wall makes sense. The burn wall enables you to sort of weed out the floor, and by weeding out the floor, you give value to the floor. Dapper gets to sell it to you at cost, and then you get to do what you want with it, including burn it to get a chance at better things. You hope to be able to break even. I think that's mathematical common sense, but on what the value of these things are versus the value of whatever your rewards are. And you can plus, otherwise people wouldn't continue to be doing it by week whatever this is, 4 or 5. But I thought I'd seen that. But the problem here is, of course, that if you do these things, if you do all these things successfully, then great, you're great. But if you happen to not be able to sort of allocate the budget to 2 or 3 of these challenges, okay, let's say 2, and then you get the first 3, or you get 5 moments. You get 2 2s, you get 2 2-stars and 1 1-star, right? So then you've broken even on the number of moments. Value TBD, depending on how you played that. But so the floor got burned, but then you have to nail the challenges. And if you burn thinking, hey, I'm going to complete at least 2 challenges this week, then good, but then you actually have to do it. And if something goes out of control because the dynamics of supply and demand are not right, then you could have burned 5 moments in the beginning and not gotten here. So if something goes up to 500 and it's like, oh, I don't have that. So everyone has to be prepared for that, and then also everyone has to account for that and be try to execute that if they want, and then if they don't, it got messed up. So you can wait thinking, oh, I'll only burn the 5 moments if I can do the challenges. But if you try to do the challenges and they inflate too much, then then you may have bought some of the requirements that inflated and can't get out of them that night, or maybe you wait till the next day, or you have things going on and you can't get out of them. Or if you burn 5 in advance, you end up having to complete the challenges, and then maybe you can't. And if you don't burn 5 in advance, then you maybe still try to complete the challenges and think, I'll burn 5 afterwards, and then maybe you still get stuck with the requirements. In other words, you either it makes more people max out. And if they don't max out, then you're susceptible to all the same pumps and dips that everyone else is susceptible to, and then it's no good. It's just like, this is too complicated. I will say this: Top Shot never did anything this complicated. You just thought it wasn't that complicated because you were thinking in terms of the number of moments, and you were thinking, I want a chance at a legendary every week, which is not insignificant. It's great. But don't do it like this. Don't do it like this. Don't do this to me, man. Okay. I've to recap. It's a blended inside a blended inside a blended inside a blended inside a blended, and a challenge inside a challenge inside a challenge inside a challenge. Like, these challenges are tied to each other, the packs are tied to each other, and some of these things are tied to things you absolutely can't control. And it's ridiculous. On Top Shot, you spend $59. I mean, it was ridiculous. It didn't work out for us, but you spend, what was it, $59? You get a 1.5% chance at a legendary. Did you want to do that a lot of times in a row? I mean, for some of those packs, there was a Vince Carter legendary that was going for, when the pack dropped, 18 grand. So yeah, I think some people were willing to stack opportunities on top of each other and increase their odds that way. But it got old. I dropped, because I was so passionate about that one, I dropped over $500 on standard packs, and I don't think I got even a rare from them, or maybe one. You know, um, and I signed up for that risk, and I take it willingly. But did it get old for collectors? Absolutely. So the blended packs on All Day have been a huge improvement from that. So Dapper saw that, tested that on Top Shot, and then when they brought it to All Day, they were like, okay, we're gonna, you know, actually no, I'm wrong. You guys had blended packs first, right? True. And then when we got them, they were worse, and you guys have had them better, and they've been great. And Roham has suggested that blended packs on Top Shot are going to be like All Day's blended packs. Which, if that's true, I think that's a-okay. But yeah, it's that's why this is suspect, and that's why all of this is suspect to give you this. So here are the things I think that can be better. Here's what I would do. This is a really simple one. Is what we do on Top Shot: one challenge, one reward. You don't scrap this. 1-star pack. 1-star pack. You can. I realize that you gate less moments, but also make one of these a burn moment. Make this a burn. Let there be one for every completion. So that way, if you get a 1-star pack, you distribute one moment from the stash and you burn one. And if it's randomized enough, within certain limits, then it can be valuable to the collectors. That one seems pretty simple to me. The first thing would be one moment, one reward, one burn, one challenge. The second thing would be, you can do burn wall by the challenge instead of by the book. The third thing would be no tasks that are dependent on teams winning or things that are complete at all outside of your control. Because if you're a collector who then needs to be able to count on one of these things, it's unfair to you that you're investing based on whether the Vikings win, and what how fair is that, or on whether the Bears win, that's just yeah, I couldn't condone that. And then the fourth thing, I guess, would be separate odds. This gets its own odds, and this gets its own odds, and this gets its own odds, and this gets its, well, not purchasing. That's 100%. Either zero sum, zeros. You can decide that, but this gets its own odds, and this gets its own odds. Do the value calculation based on the rewards that you're able to provide and the difficulty in acquiring the requirements. In acquiring is that what I said? Acquiring the requirements. Yeah, I'm not. This is a cluster. You can see. I didn't think this was going to be the task every week. I think I probably said that already. I didn't think this was going to be the task every week. So now I'm waiting for, all right, what else are you going to do other than this? I like this. This is a good thing where this is not locked behind the burn wall. But you still have to complete a challenge for it, which is fine. But yeah, I mean, but then I guess you're not burning anything for this. So this is more supply. So I guess this is not enough for people anyway, because this depends entirely. If it's one moment, it depends entirely on where the floor is. So for depending on people, whether people can participate in this or not. And do all of the other things. I don't know how difficult all the other things have been over the last 2-3 weeks, because I haven't been paying attention. But yeah, there are ways. I thought there were going to be ways to do this that were more mathematically considerate, that were not dependent on, okay, event X, event A times probability of event B, or event A times event B, or times C times D times E. Like, too much of this is based on whether, Jared Goff goes for 300 yards, and if all of these things are tied to each other, then way more is dependent on weather, which just makes the bottlenecks go up, which just makes the inflation more severe, which just makes the dips more severe, which just makes the rewards more gettable, which just makes the value extraction worse, which just makes the market go down faster, which just makes everybody unhappy, which just makes people mad, which just makes people pull out, which just makes people fade the platform, which just makes people get frustrated and not participate, which just makes this stuff get scarcer, but everyone get madder. It has to be wider. There has to be more variety. I'm sorry. This is what I've said on Top Shot. If you have more supply and more variety, the challenge inflation is less severe if you have more rewards, like say more than one uh challenge reward moment set, like metallic silver on Top Shot. If you had say 3 of those sets for different tiers of collectors, um you wouldn't have people chasing the same things, which would make it easier to collect these things, which would make this system better. But how many years away is that? Because you can't be releasing competitive moments that are competitive with these editions on a weekly basis. All they already said they wouldn't, which I think is good. But if you can't do that, then this is a slower process, which is why February 21 was the fluke that it was. Which is why this is going through a similar pattern right now, I think, which is why this needs to be bolstered, which is why this needs to just take its time. If people were gonna rush in the beginning, Dapper can't stop people from going into Top Shot in February 21, nor that they would really want to, because they needed the publicity of it. But what does that mean for this? It means there was a similar thing. It means that this may be more or less conducive to NFTs than basketball, but there was going to be a similar supply crunch when there was less editions of everything. This is why we needed WNBA Run It Back and Sue Bird Game Recognized Game, because for the infrastructure that was going to be almost entirely dedicated to NBA after the month of October, in that after those September drops, there needed to be variety, and there needed to be the marketplace, and the editions needed to be filled out so that when it does come back around to WNBA seasonality, we have less craziness. And people were saying, well, I'm not buying that. Well, then good. You can vote with your wallet. I've had people from Dapper tell me, I wish people would just vote with their wallet. Great. You have every right to do that. Great. I'm happy for you. Good. If they don't get as much revenue, then they lower prices, which they did on the WNBA drops, and not as many people bought them. And then the scarcity was less, and then it was what it was. If you were willing to hold the moment, it's fine. If you needed to sell it the day after the drop, well, then you might not have been, able to recoup your pack cost. But, in that moment, at that day, it made sense. And it makes sense long term. And you have to think long term with these things, because the cycle is complicated, but that's what you got me for. You got me to explain it to you. I'm the strategy guide. I am your Dapper Sports strategy guide, so that your NFTs make sense in the context of the other NFTs. And I do what I can. I know I can be verbose at times, but that's why we need to talk about these things, because it's less hard to understand how to play than it is how it works. How it works is not the same as how we play it. We can play it Playbook is a great example. We can play it very, very simply. And how it works is a lot more complicated. We can just get the rewards that work for us. On a micro level, this works fine. But in the grand scheme of things, this does not work. And I just had to say that. This is the point I made. This is where I'm at. I recognize I've used a lot of words in this one, and I'm going to let you enjoy your Monday here if you've not been doing so already. And I'm going to let you go. And I think this has a chance to be something great, but right now it's not. That's my verdict. All right. Peace.